Rain drummed softly against the roof of the parked ambulance, blurring the glow of the streetlights outside. Ethan sat motionless in the driver's seat, his hands wrapped around a frayed, worn-out bracelet as if it were the most fragile thing in the world. His breath came slow, heavy, and uneven, the kind that carried weight far beyond exhaustion. The bracelet was small, barely fitting across his palm, but it seemed to hold an entire story within its faded threads. He traced the edges with his thumb, his eyes fixed on it as though looking anywhere else might break him. "I made her a promise," he whispered, the words barely audible over the rain. His voice cracked, betraying a pain he had carried for far too long. "One I couldn't keep." Outside, a flash of lightning lit up the empty street, and Ethan's gaze drifted to the rearview mirror. For a moment, his reflection stared back at him, haunted, tired, and older than his years. His mind began to drift, and before he could stop it, the sound of sirens filled his memory. The bracelet slipped slightly in his hand as the vision took over. The rain outside seemed to merge with the pounding in his ears as he remembered that night, racing down slick roads, red and blue lights reflecting off the wet pavement, the voice of dispatch crackling with urgency. His grip on the steering wheel had been firm then, every second carrying the weight of a life. He had no idea the promise he would make before the night was over. The memory sharpened, pulling Ethan back to the chaos of that night. The wreckage was lit by flashing emergency lights, twisted metal glistening under the rain. He ran toward the crushed sedan, the sound of groaning metal and faint cries guiding him. Through the shattered glass, he saw her, a teenage girl, no older than 16, her face pale, a streak of blood across her forehead. "Hey, I'm Ethan," he said gently, kneeling beside her as firefighters worked to pry the door open. "You're going to be okay." Her frightened eyes darted toward him, searching for something solid in the blur of noise and pain. "My little brother, he's waiting for me," she whispered, her breath trembling. "I have to get home." Ethan reached through the narrow opening and took her cold, shaking hand. "Listen to me," he said, steady and sure, even as his heart pounded. "You're going to see him again. I promise." Her lips curled into the faintest smile, as if she believed him without question. The metal groaned one last time before the door gave way. With careful hands, he and the team lifted her onto the stretcher, shielding her from the rain. Her grip on his hand tightened, the bracelet slipping onto his wrist without him noticing. As they wheeled her toward the ambulance, her gaze never left his face. For that moment, she wasn't just a patient. She was a sister, a daughter, someone whose whole life was ahead of her. And Ethan carried the weight of the promise he had just made. Inside the ambulance, the air was thick with urgency. The steady beeping of the heart monitor filled the space, each tone a reminder of time slipping away. Ethan knelt beside the stretcher, securing an oxygen mask over her face, his voice calm though his hands moved quickly. "You're doing great, Mia," he said, finally learning her name from the ID in her bag. "Just stay with me. We're almost there." Her eyes fluttered open, searching for him. "Promise, you won't leave." "I'm right here," he assured her, squeezing her hand. "I'm not going anywhere." The paramedic beside him called out her vitals, dropping numbers that made Ethan's stomach tighten. He adjusted the 4, kept talking, anything to keep her anchored to his voice. The rain hammered against the ambulance roof, drowning out the world beyond their small space. Then, suddenly, the monitor's rhythm faltered. The beeps grew erratic, then slow, until one long, unbroken tone filled the cabin. "No, no, no, come on, Mia, stay with me." Ethan's voice rose as he began chest compressions, his arms working in a desperate rhythm. The other medic readied the defibrillator, but each shock brought no response. Minutes stretched like hours until the medic's quiet words cut through the storm inside the ambulance. Time of death: 9:47 p.m. Ethan froze, his hands still on her chest. The bracelet she had given him now hung heavy around his wrist. He bowed his head, his breath ragged, the weight of the promise he couldn't keep pressing against his heart like a stone. Weeks passed, but the rain from that night seemed to follow Ethan everywhere. The bracelet never left his wrist, a constant reminder of the moment he'd failed. Sleep came in short, restless bursts, each one haunted by Mia's voice and the trust in her eyes. One quiet afternoon, he sat at his kitchen table, staring at her name on the folded incident report. His fingers traced the edge of the paper until he found it, a single note about her family. A little brother. Noah. The thought gripped him, and before he could talk himself out of it, he was in his truck, following the address to a small foster home on the outskirts of town. The building was plain, its paint faded, but laughter drifted faintly from the backyard. Ethan hesitated at the front gate, his heart pounding like it had the night of the accident. He almost turned back, unsure what he could possibly say. But then a boy emerged from the yard, a boy with Mia's same brown eyes. He couldn't have been more than 9. "Are you Noah?" Ethan asked softly. The boy nodded, wary at first. Ethan knelt, meeting his gaze. I knew your sister," he began, his voice thick. "She was brave. She loved you more than anything." Noah's eyes softened, and when Ethan told him stories of Mia's laughter, her courage, and the way she kept talking about him even in her last moments, the boy listened quietly, clutching the very same bracelet Ethan now wore. From that day on, Ethan kept coming back. At first, it was small things, helping Noah with homework, tossing a ball in the yard, showing up at his school's weekend soccer games. But as the weeks turned into months, Ethan became something more than just a visitor. He was the steady presence Noah had been missing, the kind of anchor Mia would have wanted for her little brother. One chilly evening, they sat together on the porch steps, sharing mugs of hot cocoa. Noah laughed at one of Ethan's stories about his rookie days as a paramedic, his face lighting up in a way that reminded Ethan so much of Mia it hurt, in a bittersweet way. As the sky shifted to gold and the sun dipped low, Noah turned to him. "I wish my sister could see this," he said quietly. Ethan swallowed hard, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "She does," he said with quiet certainty. "And I'm going to be here for you, for as long as you need me." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the last rays of sunlight stretch across the yard. The bracelet, still snug around Ethan's wrist, caught the warm glow, and he glanced down at it, feeling the familiar ache in his chest. "I couldn't keep my promise to her," he thought, looking at Noah's small, hopeful smile. "But I can keep it to him." Hand in hand, they went inside, leaving the night air behind, carrying with them a promise that would never be broken.